Ahoy friends, welcome to Building the Alpha Dory. I'm Dan and this is a video series recording the construction of a Chamberlain Alpha Dory using the lines and offsets from John Gardner's The Dory book. Illustrations by Sam Manning. Today we're going to be cutting the gains in the planks for the number one lap, number one strake. Anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so what I've got here is the plank clamped to the bench on edge. Now usually I'd be cutting these gains with the plank flat on the bench, but the boat's too long for my planking bench. So what I did was I made this this little insert that rests on the bench and braces against the wall, and I've got this sort of piece of wood under here that's nailed to the door frame, and that holds the board from going down, and I've got it clamped on the bench. So yeah, I drew the line that we're going to be cutting to already. I'll show you how I draw that when I flip the plank over. And then I know about where the plank is going to end. So I'll probably go a little bit beyond this. Maybe I'll even extend the line beyond that, just to make sure I got enough of the wood planed to allow the plank to sit on there nice and smooth. And then I've drawn the line on the other end. And like I say, when I flip it over, I'll show you how I mark the gains. It's very simple. Just put a board on there and draw the line, but you'll see. Yeah, so get to it. And what I'm doing is, yeah, so there's the top line that I just showed you, and then the bottom line is the scribe line that we struck with the scribe, like this. So what I'm doing is I'm connecting these two lines, the scribe line and the pencil line. Yeah, so you can see the scribe line there, right here. And the pencil line starts here, so this is where the gain will start. And I'm connecting this line to this line. So as it goes down the plank and the pencil line moves towards the other side of the board, the angle between this line and that line is going to get steeper. Or, yeah, I guess steeper or less steep, depending on how you look at it. But it's basically the angle is going to be an increasing bevel until this is just down to a feather edge on the top edge of the plank. And so yeah, the other thing is, a lot of times this this bevel would be cut with the draw knife, because the draw knife is a nice straight blade that allows you to cut that bevel. Unfortunately, with this door here, the upper handle of the draw knife is in the way. Like I say, this isn't typically how you typically cut this flat on the bench. So, whatever. We're going to use the, I'm going to start with the broad axe. And this actually, has a nice straight blade as well. A nice flat surface, because that's what you want to do, is you want to get this bevel to be a single flat surface. So like I say, I'm trying to connect this line to this line, remove whatever wood is stopping me from doing that. And the nice thing with the broad axe is you've got really good control over the angle of the head with the handle of the axe. One thing I worry about with the axe is sending a sliver back into my hand. Hasn't happened yet. If I do, I'm sure you'll hear about it. That would be a fairly painful experience. And you can see this isn't quite as stable as it would be if it was flat on the bench, clamped down. But I'm not having too much issues with it moving. Not having too much trouble. So it's working. Alright, now we'll see how this works out with the plane. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to go further. The other thing I could do is grab the saw and just cut this off. Then I wouldn't have to worry about the angled beyond where the plank's going to be. You can see I'm trying to keep that plane as flat to this connecting, as flat to this surface, connecting the two lines as I can. So it's easy to start to round it with the plane. Once you've planed a round into it, it's a lot harder to get that round out. So, yeah, now it looks like we're pretty much there. Not sure if I've gone quite far enough here. I think I'm going to just go a little bit further. And then we'll do the same thing down the other end. So you can see what we've got now is a surface connecting this line to the scribe line here. So it's a flat surface now. And that is the gain. In English style clinker boat building, that gain is like a step or a ramp where one board passes by another board. But in Dory building, it's both boards that are beveled, and they're beveled in this sort of a increasing angle. So the two increasing angles mirror each other, the board above and the board below, and then that's how you get down to flat on the stem or flat on the stern with both planks. So it's a little bit different than the English style of they don't call it lapped strake, they call it clinker boat building, where one plank overlaps the other, very much like in a lap straked boat. Alright, so this is the stern lapped strake. Yeah, and I guess it kind of goes without saying that, you know, if you've got any sort of swirls in your grain, or even any knots or irregular grain along the edge of the planking, you'll want to try and incorporate that into how you go at these gains, especially if you decide to broad axe it. There's some irregular grain right there. And you can see with the axe I'm having a easy time controlling the bevel. Much like with the oh yeah, I guess I could be using the draw knife down here. Probably a good idea just to demonstrate that, how it's you know, traditionally done. So I've got room to move the knife down this end, albeit the plank isn't flat on the bench, but you know, this is as close as we're going to get on this Dory, I guess, to flat on the bench. So you can see I can, with the draw knife, I can actually just run the handle of the knife along the board and use my top hand to control the angle of the cut. And you may be like shouting, "Oh no, no, stop, you're using the draw knife backwards." Well, that's how this is, that's what I was taught anyway. That's how the draw knife is used on the bench to bevel and cut gains. Is it's used, you know, what would be considered upside down by most people. And yeah, that's the way it's done though. So this this thumb cleat here is now getting in my way. But yeah, you can see how the draw knife makes really short work of this, and it's making a much cleaner cut than the broad axe. And it's very likely that you know, aside from swirly grain like this, the draw knife cut, you know, aside, like I say, aside from difficult grain, you won't even need to plane it. You can see this, how smooth this is. I could probably put that on the boat as is. And you you can imagine if somebody's doing this all day, every day for years, how much quicker they'd be than I am right now. And, you know, and how much even cleaner job they'd be able to do. And, you know, there's no doubt in my mind that these planks could go right on the boat with just the draw knife. No need to plane them. I'm not quite that good. And I got some swirly grain here too, so rather than risk losing a plank, I'm gonna go to the and you can see how as I move down the bevel, I'm just changing the angle of the plane slowly. Making sure that I don't rock the plane across the bevel. And just smooth transition. The big part of that is when you bring the plane back, you've got to recompensate the angle so that the other thing is you don't want to go down below the scribe line, because that'll mess you up too. Alright, that looks pretty good there. So we'll flip this over, and I'll show you how to draw the gain lines. Figure that out. It's super simple. Alright, so we got the plank flipped over. First thing to do is scribe the lap line on the side of the plank. So that's with this, and the laps are 1 inch and an 1/8 on this Dory. That's what we're going with. I think I went with 1 1/4 on Centennial, which has a little bit heavier planking. But yeah, that's about where you want, between 1 inch and 1 1/4, depending on the size of the boat you're doing. mosquitoes coming out in here. Okay, now the lines that I traced onto this plank from when I had the plank on the boat are on the other side of the board. So I'm trying to see where those lines are right now. Okay, so here it is right here. So I'm just transferring that line to the top edge of the plank so I can see it. It's all the way down the end there. And then when I go to do the gains in the back, I'll transfer that line too. So that line tells me where the plank, approximately where the plank is going to end on the boat. So I want the gain to be down to, you know, almost zeroed out as far as plank width once I get down to that spot on the boat. So I take a straight edge, which is right around 3 feet long. I actually don't even know how long the straight edge is, but it's close to 3 feet. Okay, this one is 41 inches, so it's 3 feet 5 inches. 3 feet 6 inches, 42 inches. And so I've got a tick on either end, and I'm putting that tick mark on approximately where I think where I want the plank to where the plank's going to fall on the stem. And the idea is to get the thickness of the plank down to 0 by the time we get to that point on the stem. And if it gets down to, you know, close to 0 a little bit before, then that's fine. And I'm not actually going to a feather edge. I'm going to about somewhere between an 1/8 and a 1/16 thick. Because I don't want a feather edge that's just going to break and split off. But I also don't want to leave a lot either, because whatever I leave is going to be the thickness of the lap at the bow. And I want the laps to go down to pretty much flush with one another at the stem. The reason for that is because we don't want to let water in. If you've got a plank that doesn't go down to flush with its other plank, then there's going to, by definition, be a hole or a gap at that lap, because a lap is an irregularity in the side of the boat. The lapped strakes, you know, you can see them. There's, you know, it's very obvious. That's what makes a lap strake boat look different than a smooth-sided boat. So that's an irregularity. If you don't bring that irregularity down to 0 at the front of the boat and at the back of the boat, the stem isn't irregular. The stem is a smooth surface. So if you've got an irregular surface coming up against a smooth surface, you're going to have holes coming into the boat. So that's the reason for these gains, is to get the planks down smooth to one another, flush to one another, and hence flush to the stem. That's the whole point of it. Flush to the stem to the point where a little bit of caulking or you know, a little bit of putty will make it watertight. Not a big deal in our case, because we're going to be glassing the bottom, and most of these, so the other thing is most of these joints are up above the water line anyway, so you know, but you still wouldn't want a wave squirting through, you know, when the bow slices into a wave and the wave runs up along the stem. Alright, so that's basically it. You can see what I drew here with that straight edge. Just set the straight edge on it and draw. You know, here's where 3 feet 6 inches came on the straight edge. So I'm tapered down to just about nothing. And then as we go along, we're cutting deeper and deeper into the plank. And you can see I'm down to pretty much as little as I'm going to get. Like back here, maybe 6 inches back or 5 inches back. And then I'm just going to kind of run that along the same width for that entire length, for the rest of the length. And then I'll continue out and just go right off the board with the plane. And you know, whatever is left over, once we get it on the boat, we'll saw that off, whatever's overhanging. Alright, so I'll do that. Draw the stern again now. Find where I traced off the length, the approximate length of the plank. I'll put a tick mark there. And just yeah, do the same thing that I did on the other side. So we're going to start with no bevel, and we're going to end up with a significant amount of bevel. So I want to be close to the face on the, you know, towards the center of the boat. Just barely get the pencil on the edge of the plank, basically. And then as we go back, just increase that bevel. Alright, so that's it. Now we'll cut to those two, connect those two lines with the cutting tools, and yeah, we're off and running. So that's the idea. Got a few more to cut this evening, and then yeah, hopefully we'll be ready to hang a plank. Don't know if we'll get to it tonight, but maybe tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by Building the Alpha Dory, and I look forward to seeing you next video. Bye.